Hello, I'm Richard Downs and welcome to my YouTube channel. Since I uploaded some photographs to Facebook and also on my YouTube channel, I've had quite a few requests for me to do a video giving a bit more examination of the model I've made. I'd always wanted to build a 1983 to 1989 TARDIS console room. I even looked at trying to get a couple of commissions, which come to no avail due to their unavailability on other projects. So I thought, well, I'll have a go and try making one myself. So in the Doctor Who magazine was a diorama, 3D printed diorama of the 1983 TARDIS console rooms. So I took that as my inspiration and as a starting point to build my own. From the Doctor Who magazine diorama, it gave me a rough idea of the sort of measurements I wanted, and I had to look at ways of how I could build the TARDIS console room myself. So I didn't use the exact measurements from the diorama. I had to guess quite a bit using still photographs, videos of the actual Doctor Who episodes against the Doctor Who character options figures, against such as the roundels in the TARDIS, and things like that to try and get a scale of the actual size I wanted to make it. And from there I then decided how I could construct it using foam board. I actually used cereal packet cardboard and wood. I made the columns out of wood within the TARDIS. I also used little bits of strips of wood to use as the lines within the columns, because I don't have a 3D printer and I don't have the technology to design things 3D printing. So I wanted to make it hand built by scratch. I did look at all sorts of ways how I could actually make roundels, the holes within pieces of hardboard, and I just tried and I could not do it successfully. So I got in touch with Jamie Bates. It gave him my measurements of the size of the holes I wanted the roundels, and he very kindly made me the roundel walls. I then also got a friend who has a 3D printer to use Troy Wood's Doctor Who 3D printing website to look at the roundels which were available on that website to fit in scale with the measurements that I provided, and then the roundels come back, and then I was able to put them, glue them within the holed walls. The TARDIS plinth, the TARDIS console room plinth that I wanted to put the console room construction on, came to me because I'd always been interested in the types of buttons and switches that they actually used on the 1983 to 1985 prop. I've looked at TARDIS Builder's website, which has been a massive help and great source for not only constructing the console room itself, but also what types of switches and the TARDIS doors. My father-in-law tried to make me some out of wood, but unfortunately that wasn't a great success. So I then turned to Jamie Bate, who provided me with some TARDIS doors that he already makes with his Doctor Who TARDIS sales. The TARDIS doors weren't actually accurate to the 1983 to 1989 version, so we did have to amend it slightly. So the eagle-eyed viewers will notice what the difference is between the original doors and these doors. I'll leave you to look into that. The hinges I used for the main doors were doll's house hinges. Everything else, I think, self-explanatory, made of wood, foam board, other bits of wood. It took a lot of sanding, a lot of filling, sanding, re-sanding, filling, etc., using wood. And one of the hardest bits was trying to get the back of the model smooth, because it looked unsightly really with the bits of wood and glue that I'd used. So I then put plaster over the back of it, smoothed it off, and then sanded it again. My dad helped do the mechanism using the linear actuators for the time rotor, so my dad very cleverly worked all of the electronics out for that. The lights within the console itself I got from Small Scale Lights, and she supplied me with the right lighting based on my requirements. I used stills from Doctor Who episodes to find out which lights on the console flickered and worked, and also the time rotor. And I sent Small Scale Lights my request for the what I wanted the lights to do, and that was kindly undertaken. The TARDIS console room door, internal door into the TARDIS, I made that from scratch and just guesstimated the measurements based on the other measurements I've made for the console room. I also looked at, again, still photographs of Doctor Who episodes to match the scale in line with the character options figures. The TARDIS console itself is from Troy Wood's 3D printing Doctor Who website, and again I got a friend to print the available 3D printed model for me, and I painted that. I did make amendments to it. I did quite a lot of work to the internal parts of the console itself, so I could fit a motor inside later on. So although I used the console that is available on Troy Wood's website, I actually did quite a lot of amendments to the internal parts of the console. I also made grooves along the lines of the consoles that you can see within the actual TARDIS console room used. Enjoy and happy building. Bye.